Good day, everyone. Here we are again, Nursia Afridi and myself. We wrote a book, The Power Is You, an odyssey towards self-empowerment. And this podcast, The Power Is You. In this podcast, we interview women and their amazing stories of self-empowerment, the odyssey that they pass through in their life. And today we have Saadet. She's now living in Australia. She lives half of her time in Turkey. And as usual, Nursia is going to do the interview. So Nursia, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Saskia, and welcome, Sadi, to our podcast. I would like that you explain about your background and your experience so that our audience can get to know about you, and then I will ask you some questions.
Okay. Well, my name is Saadet, and I have been in Australia since I was 9. Now I'm 64, so that's been a long time. In 2015, I went to Turkey to work in a refugee camp, and then ended up staying there because my partner was ill. And then I got bored and I opened a childcare center because I thought the education um, of children under the age of 6 in Turkey wasn't peaceful. In other sense, it was full of anti-cultures, particular language groups in Turkey. I thought if we're going to have peace in a long, for future, we need to start with children under the age of 6. And so we opened a childcare centre full of people from all different cultures, providing opportunities for refugee children who couldn't afford it, women in women's refuge who couldn't afford a proper childcare centre. The whole principle behind it was, let the children play, let them get to know each other, and overcome some discrepancies in terms of culture, religion, politics, and live in harmony. So that was it. My background, I have been an academic for a long time and then gave that all up and started working in the union movement to make some changes to protect the, wages and interests and services for, in particular, migrant workers in Australia. But in, long run, it was for working class people. If we had their conditions of employment right, and for them to mingle with each other in the workplace, because migration influx to Australia was basically we needed a lot of workers, and we still do, to make sure that harmony was there. Although we are known as the most multicultural country, social, free, there's also lots of discrimination in the workplace. And also not just the working, blue collar workers, but also white collar workers. So I started working in the union movement. How did we come to Australia? I was one of the products of the refugee background family. My father was a political asylum seeker, and my mother was Kurdish. So we came here back then. And I suppose being a migrant and being disenfranchised, being excluded from the community because we couldn't fit in right. We couldn't fit into our community because of the cultural difference of mum and dad. We couldn't fit into the general community because we were migrants and refugees. I suppose it comes from my childhood that one of my biggest fears of life is losing people. I and one of the way, and I didn't want to lose anyone because we couldn't do things for them. So I'm always, so I don't know how to say no for my family, for my community, in my workplace. So it's just overwhelmed my life. But I'm happy. I'm happy that I've chose this road for myself, that it opened opportunities. And I'm, sort of glad that I've got involved in so many different, diverse, interesting, activist-based issues that has made me who I am, I
Yeah,
suppose.
Wonderful, Saadet. So now I would like to ask questions because you explain very well your background and what you have done and what is your mission. Yeah. So now I will ask the first question because in this interview we want to try to discover what has kept you away from your inner strength and how you can unleash that potential to become you. So the first question is, what was the most hidden personal fear that has hindered you throughout your life?
Fear of losing people, my fear. Because I suppose that comes from because we lost so many. We lost aunties and uncles, and because we didn't have any interaction with them, we couldn't go back home for a long time. So I had to meet them later on in life. But also losing, in a sense, not just losing money or losing home or anything. It was just losing friendship. One of my biggest fears is that I don't want to lose anyone. And I suppose that was an inner strength in a way, because my networking and, sort of my friendships that I made over the years is so much that I still keep in contact with people to see how they go. And it might not be every day, but every now and then. So the inner strength that I had was the fear that gave me the inner strength. If it wasn't for the fear, I wouldn't be as strong, as assertive, as cautious, sort of, and thoughtful. Not just about myself, but others. Myself came last and still does. I think I will be happy if I'm surrounded by people that I can assist, work with, be happy with, and they're all at the same level of, sort of thought as myself. That
Okay.
we can work together.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Yeah. So now I would like to ask the other question that you mentioned that the what personal fear to you was to losing people. Yeah. So how did you manage to face your fear and what were the steps that you took to put the fear aside and achieve what you wanted in your life?
I put the fear, I built strength. I turned that fear around to strength, and ambition, that I was going to break away from this cultural norm, and I was going to break away from, so not who I am, but, sort of what the system brings in to separate us. So that was the strength that I had that gave me the innate to push through. So, in other words, I didn't care what other people said. I knew that I need to protect not just myself, but the social fabrics of the society. So I turned to fear into strength, but it took a long time. You wouldn't believe it. I couldn't speak in front of people. Fear of, I was going to say the wrong thing. They were going to be upset and I was going to lose them. But I managed to turn that around. Sort of, I'm now able to speak in front of the people, and I would like talk about my opinion, but in most cases to listen to their opinions, and listening to their opinions that shapes me.
Great. Okay, and also I would like to ask another questions. To achieve something in life, there are always some hurdle and challenges, as you also mentioned, so that we need to overcome to reach to our destination or goals. So what were some of those challenges that you needed to overcome?
First, I need to find out who I was, sort of what makes me happy, and identify that in terms of, sort of things that I do that brings me not only happiness, but motivates me. And the other way of, sort of the other thing that I did was to be confident with myself. And having that confidence that also reflects to other people, and not be shy in speaking my mind, but also, and to do that, I had to listen more and speak less. I mean, now people don't even realize that once upon a time, I was this quiet, scared little child turned into little teenager, turned into young adult. And if I tell them that, they don't believe, because they say, you always speak, Saadet. You're very good in front of people. But it's taken so many years for me to develop that. And for me to develop that, one of the bases was the education was one of them. Meeting up with people was another, and networking. Saskia, she has given me an opportunity, which I just embraced and took like I dog with a bone. And because I knew that matched my goals in life and my inspirations and aspirations in life. And I left it for a while because of other things, but, I was there, and I'm still there. So I think, and I put it down to, because the other night we were in training and I was listening, and I thought my inner peace is what I believed in, and that I haven't let it go, but I'm quite happy and quite relaxed about it. And I like to see that in other people. And how do we do that is to, I suppose, to train them in a way that they find who they are. I found myself when I was 28, would you believe it? And I was very angry with myself that I didn't do that when I was 18, 19, or 20.
Nice. So now I will ask another question. Is there any life moments when you felt defeated? That, in our life there are always some problems and challenges that when we feel defeated. So is there any moment in your life?
Oh, there's plenty. I'm 64. I'm, I feel like a balloon, and then somehow someone puts a pin in and I'm deflated into this tiny little, sort of minuscule particle on the ground. Defeated in a sense. Well, I still feel defeated with all the work that we have done over the years in terms of multiculturalism, refugees, and trying to build that strength in the country that I live in, and the country that I call my country, which is Australia. And we came so far, but because of changes to the government and changes to this system, we went so backwards. We still have lots of refugees in another part, sort of outside of Australia, in a camp. And their only, their only fault is that they are refugees, and their only fault is that we went and bombed the shit out of their country, and then they came to our country as a refugee, and we said, no, you need to go to this island where no one hardly ever lives, and that you're going to be in prison, and that prison is going to be, sort of controlled by the American prison system, run by the Americans, for the Americans, but they've got the contract to do that to Australia. I felt defeated, not just I, but the people who put all their time and effort and changed the policies, and they promised us that this would happen, turned around within 24 hours, even less than that, made that decision. And then another time I was defeated was when a boat full of refugees was coming into Australia in the middle of the ocean. And the boat that they were coming in had a leak. People were dying inside. The water was coming so high. The mothers, to save their children, jumped into the ocean. So they thought that they could swim. We had elections that time, and the ruling government wanted to win the elections, and they said these people chucked their children and they killed them to save themselves, which was untrue. And it was saved by, I don't know whether it was one of the ships that was some of the people, whether it was coming from Europe. And they saw the whole incident. They kept this away from the news. People didn't vote for the other party who was in support of the refugees, went with this ruling party. And then 3 years later, we found out that it was a false information given to the people so they can win the elections. That was another time. And the last time was when my husband died. I felt quite useless. I spent 25 years looking after him. In the last 3 years of his life, it was terrible. And I was his only carer. He passed away. I locked myself into the house, didn't know what to do with myself. I spent 24 hours looking after him. I decided that if I think that I was working in a factory making biscuits because it was a nice thing and we like biscuits, that I can deal with this. And well, he died, and I had to quit work, in other words. And I didn't know what to do because I was so consumed in looking after him that I felt quite useless. I didn't know whether to get up and clean the house, whether to eat. I lost so much weight. I couldn't think. I didn't talk to anyone. And that took a while, but I'm okay now. But that was the other thing, final thing.
Yeah, exactly
I
what
don't
you
know what's
mentioned is,
coming up next, but am I ready for any of these things? You're never ready. Sort of, we can be on this high all the time, and then all of a sudden something comes from the left field unexpectedly, and your feet is off the ground. And then I went back into reflecting back onto who I am, what I need to do. And, so it has taken a while, but slowly within the last 12 months or something, I'm now back into the old Saadet, walking, talking, visiting, and re-entered my profession as, sort of training and lecturing and meeting with other people.
yes, like fortunately we have this ability, as you mentioned, you have so many moments of defeat in your life, but we have the strength to overcome and to resilience, yeah, and our vitality allows us to stand up again every time. And you did it very well. So my last question is this: is there any moment in your life that you felt, yes, the power is me?
Well, I felt the power is me when, and it was a silly, stupid, not silly, stupid, but um, there was this doctor that I was visiting, and he kept telling me, sort of, and you know how we have this thing about doctors that they're in this pedestal and they know everything. And then I had to, and for months I was, I wanted to confront him and say, listen to me, Jack, you're full of, so all this information, but there's no solution. You keep giving me painkillers, hypothetically speaking, but it's covering the issue, the main issue, and then I have to take another pain medication. So this is what the world and the system and the governments are doing to the people. They're giving us a bit of thing and saying that, okay, Band-Aid work. Now we're giving you a Band-Aid, you should be okay for a while, but it's no. I said, you need to tell me what I need to do in order to get out of this state. And then he said, oh, Saadet, now let me see. You're right. Sort of, it's never going to get better and it's going to get worse. And the pain is to help you relax a bit. And I said, I'm not relaxed. So I think that's when I thought I built that power to tell him how I felt, but tell him that he needs to talk to people in another way. He can't just say, here's the painkiller, go. And if the pain persists, come back again. Well, we're going to keep on coming back because the pain will continue to persist unless we find the solution, unless we build, sort of find that information and look for the, sort of the gray holes, the pink holes, the blue holes, and then search wide rather than just being that, sort of spokesperson like the teacher. You will be okay, Johnny, next year if you just study it hard. But the Johnny might be studying very hard, but it might be the way we teach them. Johnny might be the person that who's not used to that classroom situation, or we might need to deal with them one-on-one. And the other time that I think that I lost and build that power in me, when I had the childcare, we had lots of students from Ukraine and Russia. So we had parents of Russia and Ukraine. When the war started, I thought, well, that's the end. We close shop now, because we had 80% of our children using our childcare was almost half and half Ukraine and half Russian in Turkey. And the parents were also very worried because the war started in Russia. And I was in Turkey, we've spoken to the children, and then we got them to paint rocks. This child, at the age of 5, painted this rock. One side was a Ukraine flag. The rock was, sort of not round. It was almost like egg shape. And the other side, he drew the Ukraine flag and the Russian flag. He colored all this side, but left one part open. And I said to him, why did you do that? Why didn't you finish painting this side? And he said, Saadet, I didn't paint this. This side, we were once friends. This I left little bit there to say that we're going to be friends again. And this child at the age of 5 gave me the idea. I used his rock, I used his sentences, wrote letter to all the parents, had a mutual meeting saying that just because this is happening over there in your country, you feel very strongly about it. But the aim of this childcare was to build that friendship. We don't want this to happen. The heads of those government wanted it to happen, and we got all involved in it. But if we segregate and separate now, we're not going to build these relationships. Our children love each other. They've been hugging each other, kissing each other, playing together, learning together. So let's give it a go. If the adults don't say anything, and if we don't say, no, you're not talking to the other person because now they're in Ukraine, we're in war, let's not talk about the war. Let's talk about friendship. Let's talk about how do we get peace, just like this rock does. So that rock is now in a frame hanging in our childcare center.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you so much, Sadit, for giving the insights and giving the wonderful example and sharing with us of this child. Because these are all the strength that we have and that we express what we want, not the other people what they want, but everybody has the strength to show their feelings. So thank you so much. And Saskia, now the floor is yours.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for having me in your podcast.
Thank you, Nusia. It's an amazing story that you're sharing, Saadet, and what I really admire is how you transformed your biggest fear, which is losing people, into your strength. And if you manage to do that, this is really empowering yourself, because you could remain with that feeling and then choose to somehow, or not choose, but maybe not overcome the sense of defeat that it probably also has in it. But you chose to really transform that. As a last question, I would like to ask you, because I think you are one of the few people that I know, and I know many people because I'm nearly as old as you are, that really practices kindness and compassion from the heart, really so authentic with authenticity. And it's your natural state of being to always care about the other and feel compassion. And I love the way that you can really also get angry at the injustice in the world. I will never forget. I'm going to share briefly that story, that you were stuck in this hotel under COVID, that you were not allowed to go out and you felt like a prisoner, and that you were more concerned about your neighbors. And when you got out after, I don't know, I was think 2 weeks, that you were still going because you knew in what circumstances people were staying in that hotel. You made it a point to go there to kind of also a family of refugees, to let them know that you're heard, you're seen. So what is your as a last message? What would your message to women be in this case? Yeah, how they could empower themselves more, and not only that, but act upon it, because that's what this is also about.
I think they need to come out from where they are and who they are. I mean, women around the world, we're all the same. We all think about economy because we need to buy food into the house. So we're great managers. We are absolutely great teachers because we teach our children. We are providers because we provide not only to our own family that we build, our own children, but to our extended family and our extended community. We are great in communicating because when we're angry, our children know that we're angry. When we're upset, the community knows that we're upset. And without women, we wouldn't have communities. It takes one woman to build a community. You take women out of that sense of community, then we don't have anyone left. So the power of woman, we have this, but we need to come out and use it in a way that our voices are heard.
Okay.
And I think that's the only thing that's missing. Otherwise, a woman can do anything and everything. We're the chefs, the cooks, the managers, the communicators, we're the teachers, we're the we socialize more, we talk more, we build friendship all the time. And we extend to the wide community, like the schools that our children go to, the places that we work in, supermarkets, doctors, partners, workplaces, and their, sort of work gatherings. And I think that we shouldn't be behind anyone or on the side, as the system and the society says, there's a great woman behind every successful man. We need to say there's a great successful woman in front, and there's other cultures who says the woman is only as strong as the men they stand on the side or their partners. Well, we're not going to be standing on anyone's side. We need to be up front, not at the back, but we need to not only use our voices, but our faces and speak up. I think we need to get so it's easy. We can all talk. We don't need degrees. We don't need education. We really don't need any more training. We already have them. We can train and teach and educate and be academic to the world. Otherwise, the wars only happen because there's not many women who makes these decisions.
That's a very big truth. Thank you so much, Saadet, for this interview. I'm absolutely convinced it will inspire many, many women and men. Thank you.
I still got the fire in the belly, Saskia.
Yes, you have.
I'm not going to get it out. All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me the opportunity once again, Saskia.